research in the field, doing research on your own and what equipment to use. We've got a few things up here that we're going to show you that we use. How to find your own research area to check out. I'm actually going to have driver operator Randy Harrington. Hey Randy. There he is. He's hiding over there. But we're going to have Randy help because me and him seem to play off each other pretty good. We're going to try to do track casting today, but if we don't get enough dirt to put in our little casting trays, we'll put that off till tomorrow, and then we'll get Dr. Melvin in here. And he's got a pretty killer presentation from what I've seen just in the slides. So we'll get started here. Oh, I better not be doing this to me. Some of the things to remember is not every area will have Bigfoot activity. You have to decide what you are in the research for. If you're just out there to see one for yourself, you don't really need that much equipment to do it with. If you're going out there to try to prove that Bigfoot exists, you're going to need a little bit more equipment. Also, if you're out there to prove that it exists, you're going to have to think about what type of credibility you're going to have, how you present it to everybody. You will have family and friends look at you differently. I think Randy can vouch for this and some of the other researchers that, people ask you mean you actually go out looking for Bigfoot? Yeah, we spend a lot of time out there. Isn't it fake? Well, I'll tell you what, after seeing them a couple of times and Randy's seen them, yeah, they're not fake, they're out there. And not everyone is cut out for being in the woods in the complete dark. Now, one thing about Randy, he is the one member of our group that when it comes to a new research area, we send Randy in, because he likes being in the woods by himself. So, one of these days, if Randy don't come back, at least he did it for the group, huh? Yeah, took one for the team. One thing about that, last night we had 2 new researchers out there with us, and they got to experience this stuff firsthand. And before we even went out, we told them, look, everybody has their own bottle. Your bottle can fill up real quick on stuff happening, or your bottle can, take a real long time to build up. But once it starts building up, you let us know. If you're getting ready to overfill, we need to get you out of the area. Don't stay out there until you just panic, because that's the best way to get hurt. Just start panicking, running through the woods, don't know where you're going. Researching on a budget. Now, here in Oklahoma, Walmart is God. You get everything at Walmart. Basically, you can do the same thing with research tools. Some of the stuff we're going to be showing you, parabolic devices, got them at Walmart for $30. Masco, $149 at Walmart. And no, I don't have stock at Walmart, but this is the best way to go. Buy according to what you expect to do. Don't go out there and buy a thermal imaging camera if you're just out there to see one for yourself. 10 grand just to do that, that's a little bit ridiculous. You can go and buy a pair of binoculars, go sit in the woods, and there's a better chance of finding one that way than with thermal imaging. Research for information. Just don't go out there expecting to see one behind every tree. Go online, go to some of these websites and forums out there, research your information on how they act. Research information about an area. You can go to the BFRO website for all their sighting reports. Go to your specific county and state, look at all the reports. You'll start to see that there's certain places that you can go and actually have a better chance of having an encounter. And the most important thing is play it smart. Don't go out there. If there's going to be in a snaky area, make sure you got snake boots on. Take all the protection that you can to make sure that you don't end up getting hurt out there. Locating an area to research. A lot of times we'll actually go and look at topographical maps of an area. We'll look for ravines, ridges, streams, trails. Don't know if you can really see it or not, but this right here, this line here, is an abandoned railroad grade. Now, one thing that we try to do is we look for utility right-of-ways, you know, where they cut a 100-foot swath through the countryside. We also look for these railroad grades. Now, Bigfoot don't necessarily travel on these little avenues, but we kind of figure that they're using them as a navigation tool. My 4 main research areas up around Adair County are all connected by the same utility right-of-way. And basically what's going on is they're using this to go back and forth between these areas. We've actually got a white Bigfoot that's been spotted in all 4 of these areas. And the only way that he's moving back and forth is that spot right there, one of that right-of-way. Prominent features for an area, you want to make sure there's plenty of water sources for them, plenty of food, natural cover and concealment, and natural avenues to travel. One of the, I guess, bad things about living in Oklahoma and Arkansas is we got all these chicken houses. And we've actually got an open investigation going of a family that has some chicken houses that something keeps coming up there, opening the door to the chicken house, scooping up a bunch of chickens, closing the door and walking off with them. Because they can follow the trail of feathers for quite a distance. Can't say Bigfoot's actually doing it, but we've got cameras that we want to put in place to catch it. They say this is a daily occurrence pretty much. Sighting reports. I'm going to let Randy talk a little bit about sighting reports because he does a lot of looking at sighting reports to get his information.
Well, thank you, DW. And as you know, he gave you guys a lot of good pointers on, especially talking about the safety aspect of getting out in the woods. I don't follow a lot of those. I've taken a character flaw and used it to my advantage. I'm a loner, and I like being alone. I go into some of these areas with no cell phone coverage. Nobody knows where I'm at, and I'll go as far as I can get with my truck. Then I'll unload the four-wheeler and get as far as I can get with the four-wheeler, and that's where I'll camp. I mean, not too bright, but so far it's worked for me. Come out every time, and being alone works for me. It allows me to be quiet. No matter how quiet you try to be with more than one person, you're not very quiet. You're always talking. You're always whispering, movement, and I'm telling you, you got to be quiet. Get in there and be quiet. Let them come to you as a curiosity. Going out in the woods and chasing them around doesn't seem to be very productive. They have the ability, well, shoot, they've remained elusive for hundreds and hundreds of years. Us going out and chasing them now is not going to change anything. So they have to come to you if you want to have a really good sighting. But what we do is, we take sightings and we try to find commonalities in the sightings and try to pick behaviors out of these sightings that are consistent. And he was talking about the chicken coop. We know a lady north of Lake Oologah in northeast Oklahoma, and we've got an active research area in one of the watersheds coming out of Lake Oologah who's had 25 years of sightings. A lot of activity there. We love that place to research. But the lady north of the lake, we talked to her and actually got her to put this on recording for us. About 15 years prior to us being active in that area, she had witnessed a Bigfoot walk across her backyard to her neighbor's fence, undo the gate, walk to the chicken coop, undo this intricate latch going into the chicken coop, come out with one chicken, and close everything up behind it as it went out, close the gate, and walk back into the woods. There's also reports from this lady who has caught him in her barn, elbow deep into a barrel of sweet feed. Now, all I can do is ascertain these animals' behaviors from what I read about them. But an animal that's going to take one chicken out of a whole chicken coop full of chicken is an animal that does not want to deplete its food supply, does not want you to know it's been there. Same thing with the barrel of feed. If they go in and clean out that whole barrel of feed, bring in the kids, bring in the wife, and let's just feed all of it right now. Well, they have learned that when they clean out a whole barrel, then the farmer does something different. He knows it's been raided, so he'll either lock it up or change it somehow. But if they come in and eat a few handfuls every night, it never gets depleted. It just keeps getting refilled. So these things are smart. They've learned to just keep their presence to a minimum, and they never deplete their food supplies. I mean, it's only by chance that somebody gets caught digging in their food barrel, and other than that, they would never know it. They didn't walk in the barn and see them eating out of it. So we try to take these behaviors and use them to our advantage. When we're setting up baits, when you're setting up baits, use multiple apples. We have read multiple times that if you put out 1 apple or 2 apples, they won't touch it. But if you put out 15 apples, they might take 1. They might take 2. I don't know if they can count, but clearly above 3 or 4, they might not be able to count. I don't know. And that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with I don't knows. And all we can do is go out there and experiment. But the sighting reports, you can get on the BFRO, and I'm not here to tout any other organization, but they have a very good database of sighting reports in regions and states and counties. You can go in there to find the closest area to where you live to see what's going on. And it has the bin sighting reports there. Is there something going on? If you want to find an area that you want to go try to do some of your own research, research is as little as just going out and sitting in a parked vehicle in the late hours of the night and seeing what happens. Maybe put out some baits. Just sit there with your windows down. Buy you a cheap parabolic where you can hear movement in the woods and just listen. I mean, it's as easy as that. Sometimes things will happen, sometimes not. More often not. But that's the price you're just going to have to be willing to pay for that one exciting moment. And we've had plenty of those now. Now we're so into this that what else can you do? I mean, you see one once. I mean, more often than not, you're going to have to come up and toss rocks, maybe hoot at you a little bit, scream a little bit, maybe shake a tree. But I'm telling you, it gets into your blood. And I thought, as soon as I see one, that's all I need. I won't need to do this anymore. But it gets worse after that. You see one, and you want to see one again. You want to understand them. You want to be able to call them in at will and understand their behavior. But none of this is going to happen without a thorough understanding of all the sighting reports in the region across the United States to learn about their behavior. Because there is consistency about their behavior. We just need to find out what that consistency is and use that to our advantage.
And of course, like Randy was saying, you got to notice all the details. One sighting report from one area may say, I don't know, give me an example. Yeah.
Digging through dumpsters.
Yeah, digging through dumpsters. For a lot of you that live around here, the dumpsters over here across the bridge. There's been a lot of sightings over there. We've seen quite a few reports where they went and dug through other garbage cans at other areas. There was a researcher down in Chickasaw that was experimenting with trash cans. They put food in the trash can. They'd come up, take the lid off, get the food out, and put the lid right back. So, you look at these behaviors and you can go out there.
I want to elaborate on that a little bit. It's actually a lot more extensive than that. The gentleman that I talked with has been doing research in the same park where I had the Bigfoot climb in the back of my truck. And what he did, when he explained this to me, I was really astounded because he has spent a lot of time in this park system where he has seen them. He was doing experiments on what food sources they would take. And he would go to the places of the park, the parts of the park that were gated off and locked and closed down for certain times of the year. And he would take the trash cans and fill them up with paper. And he would go to Sonic and buy hamburger, onion rings, tater tots, several different food products, put them in a bag and put them down in the middle of all the paper, put a lid on it, and put a cinder block on top of the trash can to eliminate any raccoons or anything from getting in there. Well, the next day he said he went back out there, walking back to the trash can, saw that cinder block was still on it, so nothing, he knew nothing happened. So he took the cinder block off, took the lid off, dug down in the trash, found the bag, the Sonic bag, pulled it up, and it immediately felt light. He opened it up, and the only thing missing was the hamburger, and it was rolled back up, put right back in there, the lid put back on, the cinder block. Now think about the chicken coop. Taking one chicken, locking everything back up. You're talking about the same behaviors. A whole different part of the state, and a whole different animal, and a whole different food source, but the same behavior. Doesn't want you to know it's been there. Doesn't want to take everything. And it's just amazing. I mean, I read these things, And I put the picture together of what the behavior of these animals are, and I'm just astounded at their intelligence and how they have spent their whole existence remaining elusive in the ways that they remain elusive.
And of course, if y'all haven't realized, Randy is real enthusiastic about research. Night vision scopes. Of course, they don't look like this right at the moment, but at Walmart, these are $149 night scopes. And of course, if you're like Randy, he's got a Generation 3, which doesn't require any illumination. But $149 for a little night scope, let you see out about 300 to 400 feet. You know, can't beat this. Of course, you can see we got one spotted here in our little graphic. But these are real good little devices. They got their own little built-in illuminator to where it has its own light source. And of course, here we got the infamous trail cams that, for all the trail cams that we've had out in the woods, we still haven't got a real good shot. This is one of the older versions of the trail cams that we had. Randy's been using a lot of the infrared flash to where there's no flash, well, infrared flash, but they can't see. And some of the video he's come up with takes what? One picture and then
Followed by like a 30 to 60 second video.
Yeah. And there's been some of his pictures that are really interesting. And was you going to talk about peanut butter tomorrow? Or?
Tomorrow I was just going to go by my slideshow. I'll show the pictures from Chickasaw Park.
Okay. Well, I really should let Randy talk about the peanut butter and his trail cams, because it just kind of fits into something that you need to know about Bigfoot. And I'm not passing everything off to him. It's just he's got a lot of
Sure he's not. But I'd also like to go back and talk about the night scopes. You know, don't go out and spend a whole lot of money on the night vision scopes. I got to tell you, I've spent way too much money on those things, and I have not had any great sightings through them. It allows you to see in the dark, but these animals are no more inclined to give up their cover in the pitch dark of night with no moon than they are in the daylight. They still come up under cover, they still stay behind cover, and so you don't have a whole lot of advantage with the night vision. That's just my opinion, it's just my experience, so take that as you will and use it however you want to. Buy whatever you can afford, but I hardly even use my night scope anymore because it hasn't been that much of an advantage for me. So, but anyways, on the game cams, we've read reports after reports after reports, especially from from the researchers down in Texas, where they have gotten their game cams where something is waving a stick in front of the camera, or they'll catch a hand, or leaves and rocks being thrown. And what I think these animals have learned is that they have learned to trigger these cameras by things, tossing things. And once the camera triggers, it goes into a dormant state where it takes another minute to recharge, or even longer, before it will take another picture. And if they have learned that they can get them to flash, and then they don't flash anymore because it's going into that dormant period where it's recharging for the next set of pictures. That's when they feel safe to go in front of these cameras. And for some reason, they are intelligent enough to trigger the cameras in whatever means possible, rocks, sticks, leaves, and then they will go take the baits or whatever. And we learned this at the property by Lake Uluga. Like a year later, I'm looking through a bunch of pictures that I had of some peanut butter that I had. You know, we had gotten a finger swipe out of the peanut butter, and clearly it's a finger swipe. The peanut butter is hanging on a string from the branch. The string is not broken. It's still hanging there. And someone was able to get a finger in there. But yet, we get no picture before the finger swipe and no picture after the finger swipe. So when did they get the finger swipe in there? They're learning how to trigger these cameras and then go check the baits out. And it really hit home when I was looking at my pictures, and all of a sudden I'm looking at the picture of the peanut butter hanging there, and all of a sudden the next picture, it was one of those plastic jars. You know how the peanut butter comes in a plastic jar? And it was smashed flat with the peanut butter squeezed out of it, still hanging on the string, just flapping in the wind. The picture before was a full jar hanging there. The next picture is smashed flat with nothing in between. How can you figure this out? How can you figure these animals out? Across the nation, are they just messing with cameras out of curiosity, and they're scared of the flash? So whenever they get it to where it's not flashing anymore, they think it's safe to walk in front of them, not knowing that they've actually disarmed it for a minute or two, and they can walk in front of it and not get a picture taken. It boggles my mind that they're staying one step ahead of us on all of these things. So but that's the experience that we've had with the cameras. We haven't had a whole lot of luck, but bear with us. We've got 3 cameras, 3 of the cutty backs that have been out there for over a month now. We're going to bring them in tomorrow and let everybody view them for the first time with us on this viewer. Maybe we'll get something. Who knows? So bear with us. Oh yeah. You know, everybody that's put out game cams always put them in the same area, same height on the tree, because they're thinking the game 4 or 5 feet tall, and even the cameras themselves recommend putting them 4 or 5 feet on the tree so you can get the deer and everything. And we're thinking, okay, these animals are seeing them. That's why they're avoiding them. So I bought one of those telescopic ladders that goes up to 16 feet, and I started experimenting by moving the game camera. These game cameras will pick up heat as well as movement from a very long range, up to 60, 70 feet, even up to 100 feet, I believe. Very good cameras, like $500 cameras, way too much money. I wasted my money. But still, I bought them for those reasons. And so what I did was start experimenting by moving the game cameras higher up the trees. And let them go for a month or two, got no pictures, move them up even higher. And I'm thinking, well, maybe at some point we'll move them up out of the range where they're paying attention. Maybe if they're 20 feet high in a tree, they're not looking that high. I don't know. That's what thinking outside the box means. Try things that are different. You know, obviously what we've been doing for 50 years is not producing much, so we have to try to think differently. And I think moving the cameras higher up out of their visual range and paying attention is certainly a viable thing to try. It hasn't produced any results yet, but I'm up around the 16, 18 foot mark and haven't gotten up any higher than that. Maybe I need to go another 2 foot. Maybe that'll be the magic number to be above where they're paying attention. So that's what we're trying right now.
And of course, the place up there where we've got the camera set up, we actually sent Randy up into the tree, and we've got several of those cameras. I'd say what, 20?
They're good.
Yeah, about 20 feet high, pointing down in areas. That way, as they're walking down through the woods, you know, it's highly doubtful they're going to be looking up, looking at things. So we're hoping that philosophy is going to work for us. Of course, here's a trail cam from the Kentucky expedition where they place them all around our camp in case something come up close. And of course, we got bionic ears, and you notice there's 2 types there. And what the difference is basically the price. These right here are about $200, and they're really good bionic ears. And these right here are some bionic ears that you can get from a toy shop. Here's one of them I got from Walmart for $30. And it does almost exactly the same thing, except for it's got a little trigger that you can pull. And it's even got a little thing that you can look through at birds. Of course, us being Bigfoot researchers, who cares about birds? But you can get stuff like this, you know, $30 if you go out in the woods and you lose it. Ain't gonna be so much as $200 for the big one. And what was it? A year before last, on Memorial Day weekend, I actually had one of these mounted to the back of my Blazer, and I was running a DVR system inside the Blazer, and I had something walk up behind me, behind the vehicle, and it sounded like it took its fingernail and just tapped it. Because I was sitting there listening to it through the headphones, and all of a sudden, tap, tap. And here it was sitting on the back of the Blazer. So, you know, it wasn't a raccoon, because I would have heard that crawling up on the back of the vehicle. So, these are really great little tools to have. Last night, we mounted one on a tripod, set it down in the woods with a little digital recorder hooked up to it. And all it did all night long was record all these vocalizations that we were hearing. So, you know, it's a great little device to have. If you want to get the big one, you can actually hear your neighbors arguing and talking bad about you and stuff like that. Not that we recommend it, but that's one thing that you can use it for. Here's showing some of the ways we use the bionic ears. We've got the guys down here with the handheld. And you notice this guy here has got a night scope up to his eye. A lot of times up around the Stillwell area, we go and use two guys. One's got the night scope, the other one's got the bionic ear. And that's for safety reasons. Because while you're using a night scope, your night vision is gone. I mean, the minute you take it down, all you see is a big old bright light. Well, the guy over here that's using the bionic ear, he's listening through it. And he's hearing far away. He's not hearing stuff up close, coming up behind him or whatever. So there's his close-up ears, and he's this guy's eyes. So they kind of work tandem together, you know, for a safety issue. Here we've got bionic ears mounted on tripods outside of a vehicle tied into a laptop that's recording all this stuff going on. And of course, here's a daylight picture of the tripod mounting. And when it gets really cold in wintertime, we've got several areas where the brush is right up against the vehicle. We'll drive the blazer right into the brush. And since it's pretty cold out there, we'll just mount our dang bionic ears right there in the window.
If anyone after the presentation wants to come up and try these out, you're more than welcome, Joe. They're right here.
And of course, here's the inside of Randy's little coffin out here.
That's the first one.
Oh, the first one? You can see where he's got to mount it through the wall to where he can listen in both directions. And of course, this is one of our researchers that we nicknamed Captain Audio. He went and took 3 bionic ears and mounted them on a tripod. And he's got a box that connects to a recorder. And he can sit there and turn down each one and focus in on which direction the sound is coming from. And he's been pretty effective at using this. And we're hoping to get a couple more of these built so we can put them into some of our other regional areas. GPS systems, these are real critical. If you come across something out there in the woods that you need to be able to come back to, use a little handheld GPS system. I've got a Microsoft GPS system that's plugged into my laptop that I can use from driving down trails and stuff like that in my vehicle. I can actually map my location. And this right here is a place that we call Skillyville. The reason we call it Skillyville is because the Cherokees in the area, they call anything bad in the woods a skilly. And of course that includes a Bigfoot. So what we did is we actually took a laptop in this GPS system and went back and marked an entire area where there's a game trail. So now we can go back and look on the map and see exactly where that game trail goes. And of course, you might recognize this guy. He's got this real smelly little tag here that's got animal pheromones on it. And I can tell you this, it does stink. When we put this thing out, it was a good, 200 feet from us, and we still caught whiffs of it.
This is actually a gorilla, female gorilla.
Yeah.
Pheromone.
So, and of course you see he's got gloves on because I don't know about him, but I sure didn't want any of that stuff smelling on me out there in the woods. So, didn't want no love struck Bigfoot coming up there. I'd get disappointed. Night driving, this is something that we started doing about 3 years ago, and it's caught on with other researchers. We actually take a camcorder here, mounted on a tripod, and this has got what's called night shot. It can view everything in infrared. So what we do is we put a little piece of black tape over the little infrared LED. And as we drive down the road at night, it picks up more on the headlights. You know, you can see just bare edges of the headlights. With this, it will see about another 40 to 50 feet past the end of your headlights. So if something runs across the road out there, you're going to get it. Of course, I don't know if you can see it too well, but we kind of did a little mock-up there of a Bigfoot crossing the road. Of course, here in Oklahoma, you know, you see an animal going across the road, about 90% of the people are going to hit it. Just the fact of life in Oklahoma. If there's a deer along the road somewhere, somebody's going to hit it. Digital video recorders. We can actually hook up 4 cameras to a laptop or this DVR system. We can record at night, sit there all night long. Pretty great little thing. Here's the house DVR setup. You can sit in the house and have these cameras out all around the house. And if a Bigfoot comes up around it, if it comes in front of that camera, you're going to catch it. Of course, here's the field DVR setup. We sit in a vehicle or our tent if we can get enough light control. Miscellaneous equipment. Now you're going to see some things there that you're going to be like, what the heck are they doing with that kind of stuff? That's an axe handle that we used to do wood knocks with. Now, it's up to different people, you know, does wood knocking work? Well, last night, Randy went and took about a 20-foot long stick and was down there beating on a tree. And within about, I'll say, 10 minutes, guys, we started picking up activity. The pinwheels, you throw stuff out there that you think is going to get them interested. You want to attract their curiosity. We put these pinwheels out there, you know, something flashy, twirling around out there. I've actually had quite a bit of these disappear out in the middle of the woods where nobody's walking through it. You know, can I say a Bigfoot grabbed it? No, because like Randy was talking about the trail cams, we'll put a trail cam on it. Trail cam gets a picture of just the pinwheel sitting there, and then the next picture it's gone. So now thread, this is an ideal thing to do. And as a matter of fact, we got to find some thread tonight to put around our campsite. You go and put a perimeter. You tie this thread all around your house or around your campsite or whatever at 3 different levels. Start at about 6 foot, 7 foot, and 8 foot. Next morning you get up, you go over there and you look. The 6-footer's broke. Well, there was either a deer with a pretty good sized rack come through there or something 6 feet to 7 feet tall that walked through that area. The 7 foot tall one is broke. Well, I don't think that was a deer. That's, you know, probably a Bigfoot come through. If the 8-footer's broke, personally, I'd probably pack up and leave because I don't want to mess with one that big. Yeah, let me get them glow sticks. Glow sticks. Now you're like, okay, that puts off a lot of light. We take these and actually put them in the woods, and we've had experiences where something will grab that glow stick and take off running through the woods. And so we use glow sticks to get their curiosity aroused. Now, the junior researcher that's had the Bigfoot sighting last year here, one night he was actually taking and throwing one outside the perimeter. He threw it out there, and almost as soon as it hit the ground, here come a rock and bashed right into the tree that he was standing beside. He's like, I ain't never thrown another glow stick out there. He will not pick up a glow stick to save his soul right now. But it's just something that is curious to me. And I'm going to let Randy talk about some of the stuff that he's been using.
Well, it reminded me when DW was talking about mounting the camera inside your vehicle that, you know, technology is always getting better and better, and the cameras that they're making now are just phenomenal as far as size and how small they are. This here is a video camera. It'll hold up to 200 minutes of video on an SD card. It works great for riding a 4-wheeler down a logging road. You just film as you go. A month ago when I came down here to set out the cameras, I actually had a good-sized black bear across the road right in front of me. It was before I bought these cameras, and I was thinking, man, why didn't I have some kind of camera going? I'd love to have caught the video of that. It was a big, thin black bear with long, skinny legs, and just on the other side of the black bear was some free-range cattle crossing the road. So I don't know if it was stalking the cattle or what, but it crossed the road really fast. It was a good-sized bear. And I was like, man. So I bought this video camera. And it's easy to use, unlike other cameras that once you download it onto the CD's used up, or the DVD. So now you just push a button, film, if nothing happens, hit another button, erase, and start over. So you can keep filming until something happens and you'll have to document it. And I've also taken that same camera, I bought a second one, and mounted it to a spotlight. So when I'm in my research trailer and I've got activity and I'm thinking that something is close enough that I might get out and spotlight it, hit the video camera, and when I jump out, spotlight on, it's immediately recording whatever's in the spotlight. So I can track something and be filming it at the same time. So these are the kind of things you're going to want to put together to increase your chances of getting something on video or whatever.
Randy, how much is a camera like that?
They run about 150. Sightings are notoriously brief. So brief. Everybody says, I didn't even have time to pull the camera up to my face. I didn't even have time to even look around. It was there and then it was gone. And so something so notoriously brief, then you have to prepare yourself for the brevity of that encounter, and you've got to be ready at all times. And that's what we try to do. So that's and how you can use technology, advancing technology and smaller size cameras and easier technology to prepare for that.
And of course, kind of on that note, Sensor Tech finally showed up. He's a gentleman sitting right back here, and he's got his sensors deployed everywhere. If you'd like to go out there to the booth during one of our breaks and look, it's actually logging the information. Every time somebody activates one of those sensors, it logs it on his laptop. So, and we've also got a camera, so you can actually see what's going on around you. I mean, we're just really grateful that we've got sensors because he's given us a lot of neat little toys to play with. The research trailers. Now, y'all have seen the two big trailers out here. This is what we use out in the field. And of course, Randy, since he does a lot of vinyl siding and stuff, he's real good at what he can do with his trailer. That big green one out there is really mainly just a trailer where we put our DVR at, run our cables out. But if you get a chance, you really need to look inside Randy's trailer. He's done a lot of great work on the inside. It's just amazing. Of course, this is the same one.
That's the very first one. The upper one is the second.
Yeah, here's the first one he made, and then he made this one. And this is the one that's sitting outside with some modification. Of course, here's the big trailer that we just put the DVR in. And to be honest with you, we use, a 1/4-inch plywood on those, pretty much. That's not going to stop a Bigfoot. You get a false sense of security in there. And we keep getting this vision of a Bigfoot coming up there with a can opener. Start opening up the can. So, of course, here's the Memorial Day 2000 expedition. We want to just kind of show this little graphic. I was set up here with the DVR system in the Blazer, and we actually had 3 groups of Bigfoot coming around this corner here, stand up when I got to the woods and walk on in. And the bad thing about it was we had 4 cameras in the woods and not a single one of them captured them walking around. So, you know, stuff like that, you try your best to anticipate which way they're going. Yeah.
Well, first of all, one of the reasons that we put these little trailers together is to give us some sort of advantage with these animals. And I got to tell you, especially at the Bolt Maker's place, we have come to learn that a lot of times they know when you're in the woods. And you can't go in there setting up these elaborate camera traps and bait systems if they're watching you. They're going to avoid it if they see you doing a bunch of stuff with whatever you're doing stuff with. One time I went down there and had this big grand plan. I ran a generator from the middle of the hidden bean field all the way to one of the tree stands. And I ran spotlights out into the woods, and I hung a live chicken, I hung a dead chicken, and man, it was all set up nice. It took me about 2 or 3 hours to get it all set up. And I had a switch set up inside this 16-foot tower where I was just going to hit it, and then the lights would come on if anything messed with that chicken. So me and Bull are up in this tree stand for hours and hours, and nothing's happening. And we're getting bored and tired of sitting there, and our butt was aching. And the next thing you know, I hear a chicken. I was like, someone's got the chicken, someone's got the chicken. And I reached down and we were like the Keystone Cops fumbling around there because I lost track of where my button was. And I finally hit the button, and we look out there, and that chicken had just came loose and just standing on the ground. And this thing was lit up like Fort Knox, man. So it was a bust. All of that work was a bust. And you know, and I didn't realize it at the time, but later I would have an incident happen there that would tell me that it's very possible they post sentinels. A sentinel would be a single animal that keeps its eye on us and what we're doing to report back to the other animals. And the reason I got that, and I'll tell you what happened. I was there one day, and me and Bull went back there on his Kawasaki mule, and I got out of the mule and walked down the creek to a tree stump that was big and hollowed out, because later I wanted to get in there with my ghillie suit and just sit inside this tree stump and try to be hidden. Well, as I'm coming back to the gator, I'm hearing something tap metal. I'm hearing metal going tap, 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 tap. There was no rhythm to it, no rhyme, just something beating on a metal post. And I get back to Bull, and I'm like, Bullet, where's that coming from? And he's like, somewhere over there. There's a fence on past, what he calls Monkey Island, where he's seen a lot of Bigfoots. And I said, something's tapping a piece of metal over there. And I said, I'm going to slip down into the creek and work my way around. And I said, I'm going to find out what's doing that. As soon as I dropped into the creek, it stopped. So it was something that had a visual on us, and it was using that for whatever purpose. As soon as it couldn't see me anymore, it stopped. And I was intrigued. I was like, that's the first time I've heard anything like that. It was something that had its eye on us. So the next morning, I'd spent all night on the creek bank in my little trailer. And the next morning, I woke up to that same metal being tapped. It must have been about 8 o'clock in the morning. And I was excited because I was there by myself. I was like, I'm going to slip out of the trailer, and I'm going to belly crawl down into the creek, and I'm going to find out what's doing this. As soon as I opened up the trailer, it stopped. Something was keeping its eye on us and using the metal taps to alert others. I don't know. I can only guess at what it was doing. But it seems like they're using nonverbal communications, and tapping on that metal was one way to let the ones that were foraging or whatever they were doing, maybe they were sleeping, I don't know. But as soon as that stopped, then it was time for them to move on. And that was, it's just amazing to tell you that you can spend an enormous amount of time setting up these elaborate things like we do with the spotlights and the chicken and all that, just to have it, nothing happen. I think that if you're in their area, there is a good chance that they are watching you. So, we made these little research trailers because I can pull into an area and already have the trailer set up. Shut off the four-wheeler, hop in the trailer before they even really know what you're doing. And they might come around because they hear you, but all of a sudden all they see is a box. And they might throw rocks, and they might get closer out of curiosity. But I'm trying to use the point that if you can get into their area fast enough, already set up, then they will come check you out, but not quite know. They might smell you and know that you're there, but it's not familiar with that box. They're familiar with cars, and they're familiar with tents, but what's this box? And they'll get a little closer, and get a little closer, and you might increase your chances. But the longer you spend setting things up and give them a chance to check you out, the easier it is for you to not have a good night, because they're going to avoid you because they've watched you set your stuff up. So be aware that they are fully cognizant of the fact that we're in their area, and they will be watching if they can, and they will be alerting the others. So getting in there and trying to be quiet is a huge factor in whether or not you're going to have activity that night. A lot of times we're going on the ridge like last night, when we were all sitting around the campfire, had plenty of activity. Something was throwing rocks at us, something was making vocalizations, we heard movement, we saw eyes shine. It was a great, great night. And that was great. So I'm not saying that it happens every time, but I'm telling you, they'll know you're in their area when you get there. So you have to do what you can to increase your chances.
And of course, that's what we just want to show you here. We went to all this trouble to set these cameras up. It did us no good. So now we mount the cameras on the trailer. Pull up in the middle of the area there, just drop it, jump in, boom, you're already hid. And of course, here's the 2007 expedition. If anybody was here last year for the conference, you actually seen a video where something tripped over this camera 1 second before this camera here was picked up. Basically, this falls under the same thing. We went to all this trouble to set up all these cameras. Had a bunch of trail cameras over on this side of the creek, cameras everywhere. That's all we got was just something picking up a camera. And of course, you got to have stamina. This is our youngest researcher in the group. We call him Goose. And he's told me and Randy on several occasions, all he wants us to do is bring him a baby Bigfoot to play with. He don't want the daddy, he wants the baby. He was here last year. This year he's playing flag football, and he decided his team needed him worse than we did. So, of course, that's it for that presentation. If anybody's got any questions they want to ask, we'll be happy to answer them. Oh, come on. Yeah.
Where do you get your pheromone chips?
We actually get them from North Blue. Well, yeah, he got them from North Blue. North Blue, John Fridas.
Blue North?
Yeah, Blue North. So, I think they send them to you, what, like 5 in a jar? And folks, definitely wear some rubber gloves because it stinks. The one we was using, that Randy was holding, I think was like 5 months old, and we'd have it wrapped up and secured, and it still put off the smell like you wouldn't believe. So, matter of fact, I wish I had one. We'd put that in your tent tonight. Get you back for that ghillie suit. So, we're going to take just like about a 5-minute break real quick. We got to look over here and check out the, we got to check our dirt real quick for the casting. If you guys want to come up and look at some of this equipment, it's right up here.